I'm Janelle McGill. I am a realtor in Northern Colorado and I'm also an energy efficient consultant. And I'm here today to teach you how to sell your solar home. I'm going to break this video into two separate parts. So part one is going to discuss why solar makes the home sales process unique and what you as the homeowner need to collect to be able to provide to the rest of the transaction partners when you're selling your home. And lastly, how to find a qualified realtor to be able to help you with this entire process. In the second video, we're going to talk about the actions that are different that realtor will take to get your home sold. So let's first talk about why solar means that your home is a little unique and the other homes that fit into that same category. So if you have a home with pretty extensive energy efficient upgrades, or a home with PV added, or you have maybe certifications like Energy Star, LEED, or Built Green, maybe even a home with a very low HERS score, those are all considered unique property types. And unique property types mean that there are different ethics rules and competency rules that are applied to those. So the transaction partners that you choose need to have different and higher educational qualifications to be able to handle these transactions. One of the reasons that it is different are the lending rules. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA have created some rules regarding energy efficiency where they require, it's written into the rules, that appraisers must consider the energy efficient features of a home, which also means that the lenders are required to hire appraisers that are qualified and competent to do those appraisals. There is a professional development program that teaches these appraisers exactly how to do this. It's through the Appraisal Institute, and one class teaches them about sustainable building, and the second one is about valuation of solar in residential properties. So unless the appraiser has taken these two courses, they're most likely not going to be competent or qualified to appraise your house with solar. One of the other ways that it's different is that you have to have specialized documentation, and you should also be marketing it differently. So the documentation that's required is basically legal reasons that you need to explain why you're claiming the things that you're claiming. So if you're saying that your home is energy efficient or your panels are producing X amount of energy, then you need to have the documentation to support all of those claims. So your listing agent should be entering all of that information into the multiple listing service, which is where your home is going to be listed. So all of the appropriate areas are going to be filled in properly, and copies of documentation will be uploaded to the site too, where buyers can then search for properties that maybe just have solar on them, or maybe they want homes with triple pane windows. And appraisers can also use that data to be able to search comparable properties. So as long as all agents have been entering this information appropriately, then there's better data out there to support the additional value that you would like to get for your home. And the way that the marketing is a little bit different is that I would highly recommend you encourage your agent to outline and draw attention to the items in your house that have these features. Obviously the solar is going to be very visible on the roof, but you should have something on the kitchen table that explains exactly what that is in addition to the documentation. And if you have triple pane windows again, or high efficiency furnace, or you've done something different with the lighting, have little marketing cards that have it really easy to understand language so that a buyer can realize immediately why these items would be a benefit to them. And the biggest reason that this is now a concern is that solar is on the rise, and so is green building and energy efficiency. So it's a bigger portion of the market now than it ever was, and it's in higher demand from buyers than it ever was. So it's really important that these transactions are handled by properly trained individuals to just help make sure that sellers are receiving the added value that they were expecting, and that buyers are able to find the properties that they're interested in and can compare them against typical homes very easily. So this is a chart of the number of solar permits issued just in the city that I live in, Fort Collins, and you can see over the last 5 years it's really been skyrocketing. This year we're going to probably have about 50 to 70 more than there were in 2018. So we're going to be above that 350 range. But in one quadrant of our town in the northwest area, actually 1 in 20 homes has solar now. So that's a 5% market penetration, and that's a pretty good piece of the market that has previously been ignored. And now we're trying to increase education both on the appraiser side and the agent side, but also empowering the homeowners with videos like this so that you know the answers that are out there and you can make sure to advocate for yourselves. The reason it's really important that the real estate agent, especially the listing agent, is in on this is because they touch all of these other transaction partners. They're the ones that are talking to you, making sure they're collecting everything, explaining to you how this transaction is going to work. They're also able to talk to the buyer through the buyer's agent and be able to explain the entire system to them, which relieves and removes a lot of their hesitation and fear about having solar in the house that they're interested in. They're also able to control the appraisal process. They're able to talk to the lenders. They're able to talk to title and organize the lease transfer if there happens to be a lease involved. They talk to the original solar providers to make sure that any documentation that might be missing or has been misplaced can be replaced so that it can be added to the documentation on the listing and given to the appraiser. And the last thing that they can do is have communication with the building department and the appraiser's office or assessor's office, because I believe the current number is 21 states out of the country now have solar exemptions in property taxes. So not all people with solar know that, and not all assessor's offices do that or understand how to make that happen. So your realtor can really be a great advocate for you to make sure that that is the case, especially for a buyer buying a home. If they have paid that contributory value and that increased listing price because of these features, they can then have it deducted from their property tax valuation. And you're the one that bought solar, so you know what you did to buy it and probably the differences between the two. But one thing that I found has not always been made completely clear is what that means to the real property. So if you've purchased it, which means either you've paid cash outright for it or you have a loan, that's still all direct ownership, that means that you can have added value to your real property. If it's a lease or a power purchase agreement, then that is owned by a third party and it's a temporary installation. So if there's a lease in place, you cannot have any added value to the real property on the appraisal. So it doesn't mean that having the panels on the house does not have some value to a buyer, but it cannot go through their lending. You'd have to find a buyer that's willing to pay above and beyond the appraisal price for that home if you're looking for contributory value. These are the items that you as the seller need to have available for the transaction. So obviously the installation company name and contact info in case there's any warranty issues or questions about the system for the buyer. You're also going to want to have the panel manufacturer name and then your initial invoice that shows the size of the system, the install date, the warranty information, the permit information, and the schematics. The schematics are important because we live in northern Colorado, and all of Colorado has hailstorms pretty regularly, and so there are a lot of events where you have to remove and replace, and you want to make sure you've got the original schematics so that the panels are replaced back in their original configuration. You also want to have all of your lease documents. So if it is leased, then you want the terms, the payment, the end date, the escalation schedule, all of that should be uploaded too. And the last thing that I find is the most important is a couple of copies of utility bills. I prefer to have one from summer and one from winter that show the varying seasons with the light changes and the time of day, with what your panels are producing. I would actually prefer to have one from all 4 seasons. I just feel that that's much better full disclosure, and it gives you a buyer a full picture of what a year looks like in your house with your family with those panels. And how to find a qualified agent. So there are 2 organizations that offer a designation for, they basically explain a lot of green building, a little bit of green building science in addition to explaining PV. And one is designation from the National Association of Realtors. You can get a green designation as an agent. And if you go to greenresourcecouncil.org, you can find a database there of all of the agents that have attained that green designation. The other one is an eco-broker, and you can go to ecobroker.com to find the agents that have taken those courses in education. But while those 2 are great and you're at least finding agents that are talking the same language and they're one step closer to understanding how to sell solar in real estate, I would go a step further, ask them deeper questions about some of the things that we're talking about here and in the next video, or ask them if they've taken one of the 2 courses that I mentioned here that's additional education. The course that I created and I teach in the state of Colorado is called Solar and Real Estate, but I only teach it in Colorado. I teach it at different boards of realtors, and I also teach it at different brokerages if they would like me to come to their own brokerage and teach it. There's also a national class from the National Association of Realtors that's called Selling the Sun, and that class is easy for any agent to attain. So if you maybe find an agent or you have an agent that you already like that doesn't know about this, then you could encourage them to take this course, and then you guys can talk about listing your house after they've gotten the additional education. So that's it for this video. Again, Janelle McGill, and this is my email and my website that you can go to, janelle@jmcgillhomes.com, or you can just go directly to jmcgillhomes.com. You can email me from there. I also have some solar resources in there and some other links to videos in case you're interested. So feel free to reach out if you ever have any questions, and I'll see you in video 2.